Hello everyone, this is ASICFW.io channel. Today I want to tell you about our latest version of the firmware for Antminer S9 with new profiles to be able to flash and set massively 100 to 300 ASICs at a time. It's relevant for development of those who support service for the companies. You can download the firmware from our website asicfw.io on the firmware section. Apart from the firmware for S9, we also have them for D3, T9+. Soon we'll also have firmware for D5, S11, S15, T15, and all the new devices that are coming to the market. Currently, the firmware, as you know, allows to reduce the energy consumption and increase capacity. Again, you can download it here. I've already done it, and now I'm going to show you how to use all that. We have here standard S9. Now it's uploaded, and I've restarted it. So, absolutely standard, rehash 14 or 13.5. Can't tell exactly now. Okay, let's wait a little bit. The firmware is uploaded in standard mode. System upload, you push this button, choose file, then image. Still I want to wait until our S9 is uploaded. By the way, this is one of the disadvantages of Bitmain's standard firmware. What we notice here is very long uploading, long frequency auto selection, and all the other issues that we've noticed while using these miners. In our firmware, we remove the disadvantages and sometimes even modernize some of them, as for example for ASIC boost. The very technology of ASIC boost proposed by Bitmain doesn't work totally correct, so we've adjusted it, made it perfect. Now we are having the best ASIC boost in all the firmware. So what do I have here? I've prepared here several models, I and J. You can see them here. I used standard BTC tools. As the ASIC right now is in the working frequency selection mode, we can't see them here. Oh, it just appeared. Great. So we have our S9 that we're using now. Here is IP69 and standard 14 rehash. No changes, absolutely standard. Here we enter system, upload, push choose file. Here we have the latest version. So accordingly we click flash image and thus we update the firmware for S9. We have to wait a little bit. As soon as it is uploaded, we'll see the additional menu and all the new options. The upload hasn't finished yet. I'll tell you about the new options that will be added soon. This is actually production, the software that allows you to scan the network, as well as change the settings and display in one click. It only works with our firmware, but it makes life and setting up of many devices very easy. I also want to remind you that we have a service of free device repair. If you install our firmware with the slightly enlarged fee, it goes for service and on average about 5%. For this 5%, we give you a guarantee for the device. If this is a farm or some big client, we have a replacement fund if necessary. You also get capacity growth or decrease in power consumption much more than on a standard firmware with ASIC boost from Bitmain. So if you are interested in this service, please write to us. There is a link to our channel on the website. Here, great, the firmware has uploaded. We can see it now. The main thing that changed the modes. Here we have automatic mode for energy consumption. We can see the basis for it here. Then we have the capacity and note that this energy consumption only works with those pools that support ASIC boost. If ASIC boost does not work for the pool, the energy consumption is accordingly a little higher. Please pay attention to this fact. Otherwise, with large overclocking, where we have 1700 watt, for example, 1600 here, if you accelerate this power, your power supply may fail. This won't be our fault. It can happen because the pool does not support the ASIC boost technology. And in this case, it immediately increases the energy consumption by about 15–20%. Also here are the settings of auto-tune for chips. I'll show it to you. One important thing here, another one, for owners of mining hotels, administrators, and all those people who work with the maintenance of these devices. Here is this so-called hotel fail implemented. You can input here the pool, the worker, password, and the percentage rate you want to receive. For example, if you are mining hotel and still take some of the power to pay the rent, it is very convenient here. You can put, for example, 1, 2, 3, or 10%, and this will go straight to your pool as our development fee. And one more important moment is generation of settings. You can see here, download autoconfig. This button allows you to generate configuration settings that you install on miner. And then you can apply it to many devices using any of them. BTC tools or Antminer tools or any program for flashing many devices. As I've already said, soon we will offer a new solution for this operation. It will be as simple as possible and will definitely work well. So let's try to apply our settings. I'll probably show this also. Perhaps you already know. Here is disable fan check is here so that you could use our firmware in the immersion baths with immersion liquid to turn off the fans or systems. If the system checks and does not see the fans, then the miner itself does not turn on. Also, here we have automatic fan or automatic mode, or here you can set it to 100% depending on the operational conditions that you have. Also, here we have the watchdog, the reboot at temperature and hash rate false. Here everything can be put and set. I did set it so that those settings that we will see now could be applied to other devices. I'll show you how to do it. Here we click Save and Apply. The settings are being applied. So it's done, applied. Now we will deal with auto-tune. Let's do it. We have 1500 watt here, 15.7 terahash, for example. Here I support doing 10 reboots. Everything else can be left as it is. But here we have run ASIC tune or save and run only chips tune. It means we can save and run only separate chips auto-tune, or we can launch boards auto-tune and chips auto-tune all together. So we push this button and run all together. Then we automatically go to Auto-Tuner log page. Here we see all the logs for Auto-Tuner. Here it begins to increase frequency. First the boards should be adjusted and then it will automatically tune each chip separately, achieving the ideal mode for it. Thus it will be hashed perfectly. And the service life of your device will last longer, which is really important, because it happens that sometimes you take a miner out of the box with Bitmain's firmware, and those chips that are on the board, not all of them work correctly. There are 63 of them in the new ones, 84 or 86, I don't remember exactly. So some of them are working with a lowered hash rate, some with higher one. And those chips that work in a non-standard mode, they are showing errors, and this leads to the decrease of hash rate, efficiency, and then it simply destroys the board. We know about this since we're repairing the devices. We're actually one of those who were the first to start this repair service, so we know all these moments from our experience from the inside. We also have, we made this window. You see it? To warn that the auto-tuner is working and you should not change the settings while it's on. Otherwise, the whole operation of the auto-tuner will lead to nothing or lead to the result which is described in the configurator. Here is the auto-tuner configuration. We need to wait On average, the setting takes from 30 minutes to 1 hour. Perhaps it can be faster on some devices. Our S9 model itself consists of several revisions. This has to be taken into account because not all boards are the same. They are made differently by different factories. Therefore, all settings and the final result in capacity in terms of power consumption depend on these boards. Some of them are a little smaller, some a little bigger, but this fact should be taken into consideration. So we have saved all the settings now. S9 is being set at the moment. I prepared here 3 devices, S9, S9i and S9j. This means that our firmware is suitable for any S9. It doesn't matter which exactly, because S9 with any letter is all the same. It is just Bitmain's marketing ploy for sales increase. That's it. And also those S9s, the very first ones, those were 10 or 11, they are still the same S9s, which are 13.5 and 14. Bitmain just increased power release in these devices. That's it. So we have 3 S9s and one of them is being set. We have already saved these S9 settings, so we can go to the System Upload tab and save the config with the settings. Here you see Generate Auto Config. We click this button and here we are offered to save. So we saved. Here are the settings. Now we have multiple devices. Let's say we will use BTC tools. We create a scan of certain IP addresses. We can see them here. These settings, it's enough for us to simply flash the device to our firmware. Our 69 is already flashed and is being configured, so we need to flash 67 and 68. So firmware update. We will configure the software separately because our devices have different letters. S9A started to reboot. Now it will install the firmware and we will be able to install it to J. We need to wait a little bit. Okay, let's do it through the web interface to speed up the process. Here is S9J. Let's have a look. It's standard. We update the firmware. Here we have configuration. We can see what is happening in the logs. So the flashing has completed. One device is ready, so we're waiting for the second one. Meanwhile, we can turn on the monitor. There is this function BTC tools. We can either scan each time using the scan button, or we can immediately see everything in real time. Here, configuration and auto selection are processing. The mode we have chosen is 15.7. Please note that having the ideal hash rate of 15.7 terahash, the power consumption is 1478 watts. That indicates that energy efficiency is 94 watts per terahash with overclocking. This is really important considering the current situation with exchange rates and profitability. The last is already close to the cost of the outlet on average. I'm not talking about those who have a fairly inexpensive energy, about 2 rubles, 2.5 rubles. So our devices are ready. We see 2 of them. Do not worry if our S9i became S9 or S9J similarly became S9. There is nothing wrong with that. These are indicators shown on the web interface that are changed easily if necessary. If you want to return back to the stock firmware, there is also no problem here. It might be done easily using the opposite way as we installed our firmware, so you can easily install the stock firmware. And here is the most interesting moment. In order to apply settings, here I have 2 devices, but there can be more of them. To the saved file we made in the tab, you see System, Upgrade, Download, Auto-config. We apply them using the firmware update in the same way. We choose S9. It's clear here. Here you need to select this file, which we got as a result of saving the settings. and click Upload All. Using this file, we update our S9, and by doing that, we get the use of the whole config that we have chosen. All the pulls, all the settings of the fan, reasons of shutting down the ASIC boost, and so on. Also, I forgot to say one thing. Here we have another tick that allows us to lower the cooler speed if your temperature is low. It is specially made for those who have ordinary ventilation, so-called free cooling, when the air is taken from the outside. Some places have very low temperatures, and when the temperature is low and our device is based in cold air, the speed is minimized. To compare, in stock it was about 2.5 thousand, something like that. This is quite high for revolutions per minute within the air temperature that is less than 10 degrees Celsius. So we made this function to reduce the speed depending on the temperature of the chips. So the update is not yet fully completed. Let's check the 68 if the settings have been applied. Yes, you see, I left all the ticks here on purpose to see how the settings are applied. Yes, here is 89, 87, everything has been perfectly applied. Now we enter the auto-tuner. Here everything is how we have chosen. Please notice, here we have 15.7. And one more important moment, it concerns the worker right here. The worker's name has changed regarding the network. It is BTC Tools Principal. Here I did not tick on purpose to show the capabilities of this function. There is no change here. If we tick off here when changing workers and pool and flashing of many devices, in this case it changes the worker so that each worker is individual for each device. So let's go to 68, 67. Here we see a similar situation. Our 67, all settings are also applied fully. The consumption here is 1480, and here 1480 also. Another thing that we should pay attention to, the power consumption also depends on the quality of the power supply and the temperature. The higher the temperature is, the lower the efficiency of the power supply is, and the higher the power consumption by the power supply and the ASIC is. Accordingly, ASIC has the same situation. It is directly connected to those elements that compose the power supply. We recommend to use either the original power supply, Currently, the latest versions are really good. Or you can use non-original power supplies, such as, for example, ASIC 51. It showed itself pretty well during our work with it. It has good efficiency, good protection against short circuit and overheating. Even in case you have some troubles with the board, like it burns or the power supply circuit is damaged, and even in case of a short circuit, the ASIC 51 block uses protection mode. It just turns off. And that allows you to prevent a fire or further melting that may cause the board to become non-repairable at all. Actually, that is all we wanted to show and tell you today. Please follow our news at our channel and videos at our website asicfw.io. Thanks to everyone.